Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Valerie Castro in for Savannah Sellers. Developing right now on Morning News Now, hope fading fast. This morning, the search for that missing Titanic tourist submersible is expanding. But the Coast Guard estimates the oxygen supply on the Titan will likely run out this morning.
I'm just keeping my fingers crossed and still have a hope that he will come back.
Plus, new developments, more underwater noises detected as additional support arrives at the search site. We'll bring you the latest. Also this morning, ravaged. We're following breaking news out of North Texas right now where search and rescue efforts are underway after a deadly suspected tornado tore through a small town overnight. We'll have a look at the damage and where that extreme weather system is heading next. Pest control. That's right, summertime isn't all sun and fun. We'll talk about those pesky summer bugs many of us are already seeing and hearing, plus some tips on how you can deal with them. And showing pride despite the pushback. Joe takes us to rural Massachusetts, where one town is making history with its very first Pride celebration.
Had their first Pride event this weekend, and they're looking forward to it, but had to face a little bit of backlash to get to this point, but they're ready to celebrate.
Right, important story we're looking forward to hear. We begin with the search for the missing submersible, and this morning time may be running out for the crew on board.
Oxygen supplies are running dangerously low, and the Coast Guard estimates the crew will likely run out of air this morning, but that is certainly not slowing down search efforts. Rescuers are bringing in more equipment as they widen their focus, and officials say this is very much still a rescue operation. We have full coverage this morning. In just a moment, we'll speak with a retired U.S. Navy officer about the conditions the crew may be experiencing. But we're going to start with NBC News correspondent Jay Gray, who is in Boston for us again this morning. Jay, they are widening the search, but they're also bringing in more equipment and focusing on an area where there may have been some noises. What can you tell us about the current search strategy?
Yeah, Joe, Valerie, good morning. You're absolutely right. Throwing everything they have at this situation and trying to get assets out to the search grid as quickly as possible, though that's a very long trip, taking a day in some instances. We know that grid is now at 10,000 square miles, 2 times the size of Connecticut, so it's grown really exponentially, and it still dives deep, about 2.5 miles below the ocean's surface, in and around that area where the ruins of the Titanic are. They are doubling the assets on top of the water, going from 5 to 10 ships that are scanning that region right now, and adding to that group of technology that is below the surface. They've had 2 underwater drones. They're bringing in several, they say, more remotely operated vehicles, including a deep diving robot that the government of France has loaned to the effort. So, yeah, they're moving quickly and doing what they can to add as many resources as possible to what is really an unprecedented search effort.
You know, Jay, from the very beginning, this has truly been a race against time. The Coast Guard estimates right now the oxygen level should be dangerously low in the Titan. But when the Coast Guard was asked yesterday, is this a rescue mission or a recovery mission, their answer was quite clear, wasn't it?
Yeah, no question. What you heard a lot from the leaders of these groups is hope, that they still have hope, that they're still making this effort. They understand the constraints here, and one of the biggest is that oxygen supply. But they say that won't define their effort in and around the site.
You know, Jay, we have been talking about these extreme depths here. The Titanic wrecked. It sits 12,000 feet below the surface, but the deepest that a Navy sub can reach is only 2,000 to 3,000 feet. That is a scary situation when you look at the difference between those two. So if they do find this submersible, which we hope they do they have a plan in place then to get to it and get it back up to the surface in time?
Yeah, I think, Joe, the most likely plan, and what they're basing things on, is that this capsule is stuck in some way, that it's mired in the mud or stuck in some of that debris from the wreckage, and that they can work out a situation where they can free it. They don't have a vehicle that can get down and lift it from there, but they do say that there are other options, and it's something that they continue to game plan on the run. Of course, identifying where the sub is key to all of that. They feel like, though, if they can do that, that they can get it to the surface. And remember, the U.S. Navy has sent in some salvage units that would be able to pull it from the water, but getting down to that level, you're absolutely right. It's just something they've never had to do before.
All right, Jay Gray in Boston. Jay, thank you so much.
Let's bring in retired U.S. Navy diving officer Joe Dettori for more on this. Joe, good morning. You're what's called a saturation diver, and we've spoken to you recently about how you spent time living for weeks underwater. What is the most important thing those 5 passengers should be doing right now to extend the oxygen that they may have left?
Sure. In these type of a situation, like very much like Apollo 13, what you need to do is just understand your systems and relax. A positive mental attitude at this point, just like the people on Apollo 13, extending that, because panic is not going to do anything for you, but relaxation is going to extend you and give you a more clear thought process.
Relaxation must be tough in a situation like this. Talk to us about the mental aspect of life below sea. We know there's only one window on this submersible and very limited space. How does someone remain calm in a situation like that? Is there an internal voice that you're trying to listen to? How do you do it?
Sure. When I was the officer in charge at Deep Submergence Unit and a one atmosphere suit pilot, it's basically a similar type situation, but absolutely not at this depth. So I cannot actually speak to what they're going through. However, when you're in this type of a situation, like I said before, that positive mental attitude is going to carry you through everything. It's the relaxing breathing, because you're focusing on the end goal, which is survival.
We know search crews have detected noises from the water. We also know there is an experienced diver on that vessel. Is there anything that the passengers can do at this point to signal for help? Is that something that they would have trained for in a case of an emergency?
Absolutely. Sound propagates very well underwater. If you can strike metal objects, which is obviously the type of thing that everybody is trained for in the submersible and submarine realm. And basically, if you understand your systems, you can reroute your systems air, systems pressure, systems carbon dioxide scrubbing. You can extend that life, and everybody just takes a minute and relaxes. But this is where the team comes in. You have a team of people around you, and you're talking through this with the other people that you're around.
I was just going to ask you about that team. What do you think the most useful things they could be saying to each other just to get through this and, as you said, focus on survival?
So I'm also a cave diving instructor, and I teach this sort of stuff. And it's basically survival underwater, which, and I keep going back to it. I know I keep reiterating, but it's positive mental attitude. And you keep constantly reassuring your partner and constantly working through the systems and the problem. Panic is going to do absolutely nothing for you in any situation, not just this one, but in any situation, panic won't do anything. So,
Joe Dettori, we appreciate your insight on this. Thank you so much for being with us.
This morning, wild weather is gripping some parts of the country. Search and rescue crews are combing through wreckage after a deadly tornado tore through a small Texas town. At least 4 people were killed and 9 others hurt when the twister hit Matador, Texas. That's about 70 miles northeast of Lubbock. You can see where the storm splintered trees and scattered debris. Officials say at least 20 homes and businesses were destroyed, but that number could grow once the scope of the damage is better known. Farther west in Colorado, people were forced to run for cover after hail the size of tennis balls pummeled fans at a Louis Tomlinson concert at Red Rocks. At least 7 people were taken to the hospital with injuries, but they're all expected to be okay. Nearly 100 others were treated for cuts and broken bones.
Parents were just at that venue last weekend for a show, so
thankfully better weather for them.
Some rain, no hail at that point. Yeah, continuing with our coverage on the severe weather across the country, let's get a closer look at your Morning News Now weather forecast. That
means meteorologist Angie Lastman is with us with a look at what to expect. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. You know, that event yesterday in Colorado, the strong storms that we were expecting, it was well forecasted, and we once again have the same kind of threat as we get into the day today, mainly focused into the afternoon and the evening hours, but it does still have that threat of hail in the picture. Here's the the big picture kind of look. You can see that slight risk, including places like Denver, stretching into parts of northern Texas. Wind gusts up to 75 miles per hour. Can't rule out some tornadoes, but the hail is the big threat. Hen egg-sized hail is what we're going to be looking at through the afternoon hours today. And again, once again, including Denver, Pueblo, and stretching farther south into places like northern Texas. Now, on the eastern half of the country, we're looking at a different kind of impactful day when it comes to weather. And that's because we have a slow-moving storm system that's bringing kind of repeated rounds of some heavy rain to folks stretching from Florida all the way up into parts of the Northeast. There's what the satellite and radar looks like right now. And we already have those flood watches that are in effect for many this morning, including 14 million people. Additionally, along the Big Bend area, we do have the flash flood warning in effect. So just watch for that. We're going to have more rain on the way. So we likely will see those numbers grow as the day goes on and even potentially into tomorrow. You can see how slow moving this system is. So more downpours through the day today. Again, those additional rounds of rain through the mid-Atlantic up into the Northeast. It's kind of a day where if you're in New York City, maybe Washington, D.C., you want to have that umbrella handy with you, and you'll want to keep it with you for tomorrow, too. When it's all said and done, as we head through the next couple of days, rainfall totals could end up maybe 1 to 3 inches, with some higher amounts, of course, upwards of 5 inches. We will, again, be watching for that potential for the flash flooding concern. Now, switching gears, talking temperatures, because, boy, they have just not been able to get a break when it comes to temperatures in Texas. Yesterday, multiple records were broken. Places like San Angelo hit 114 for the second day in a row. That is the warmest recorded high temperature ever in that city, and we'll take another run at some of these records again today. And even if we're not hitting the records, it is oppressive out there and dangerous for many people. Del Rio heads to 109 this afternoon with a feels-like temperature of 112. 117 is what it'll feel like this afternoon in Laredo. These temperatures, even the better spots, are still going to be into the 90s, and the only real improvement we see is into tomorrow for places like Dallas, low 90s, but the feels-like temperatures are still going to be really uncomfortable for folks, and again, dangerous in some spots. Triple-digit actual temperatures stick around for Laredo, Del Rio, San Angelo for the extended period. It really doesn't look like we're going to see much change when it comes to this, and some relief for folks there. Meanwhile, we've got Tropical Storm Brett that is taking aim at the Lesser Antilles. Winds at 70 miles per hour. It's right now just 200 miles east of Barbados and moving west at 15 miles per hour. They're going to deal with some heavy rain. We could see some flooding concerns, some strong tropical storm force winds. The good news is, as it enters parts of the Caribbean Sea, we'll slowly but surely start to see that system kind of diminishing and weakening as it encounters some upper level winds. And we also have Tropical Depression 4. This formed earlier, and it has winds right now of 35 miles per hour. Remember, tropical storm strength is 39 miles per hour, so we're close to that. It's a strong tropical depression at least, but it's moving west at 12 miles per hour. So, you know, the tropical Atlantic is in full swing at this time.
Yeah, we're already seeing it. All right, Angie, thank you so much.
Now for the latest on that building explosion in central Paris yesterday that left more than 30 people injured. Residents living near the scene say they smelled gas before the blast. This morning, the fire in the area is under control, but the search for the missing continues. NBC News foreign correspondent Ali Aruzzi has more.
An explosion rocking the heart of Paris. The blast destroying a building in the city's historic Latin Quarter.
Et d'un coup, j'ai entendu un bruit énorme. Je me suis retourné vers le lieu du bruit. Et là, j'ai vu une bombe de feu gigantesque de 20 ou 30 mètres de haut.
Nearly 40 people were hurt, including 4 critically.
Nous avons 260.
Paris's fire chief saying nearly 300 firefighters were called in to fight the blaze. Emergency workers searching the rubble for at least 2 missing people. The explosion taking place in an area usually packed with both Parisians and tourists.
It was like a bomb, actually.
Journalist Karine Dessalles was there at the time, describing the chaos that followed the blast, with many unsure what caused it.
There was some screams. You know, it blows like it was very strong, and window at the opposite side of the street explodes.
The exact cause of the blast is still under investigation. But this man who lives near the scene says the entire street smelt of gas before the explosion. The destroyed building is also home to the Paris American Academy School, where 9 students from Ohio's Kent State University were studying. The school telling NBC News all those students are safe and accounted for.
Our thanks to Ali Arouzi for that reporting. According to French authorities, sniffer dogs have been brought in to assist with the search for the missing people. Authorities are also looking into whether or not the blast originated from inside of the building.
White House officials say they were caught off guard by President Biden's remarks calling China's President Xi Jinping a dictator. His comment also sparked a strong rebuke from China. A spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry said in part the remarks were, quote, extremely absurd and irresponsible, seriously contradicting the basic facts. President Biden's comment came just one day after Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Chinese leaders, including President Xi. For more, we're joined by NBC News White House correspondent Ali Rafa. So, Ali, I mean, these remarks come as the U.S. and China, they're trying to cool relations. As I just mentioned, senior U.S. officials say they were caught off guard. What else are they saying? And are they worried these comments are going to set back any progress that was made during those high-stakes meetings just earlier this week?
Yeah, Joe, good morning. Well, it's important to note some key context here that the president has been more blunt, more direct in his remarks during these private fundraisers where there are no cameras, no television reporters. And that's where he made this comment calling President Xi a dictator. But nonetheless, this comment did catch senior administration officials off guard, especially because of the timing of it. We know that Secretary of State Antony Blinken hadn't even returned to the U.S. from those key meetings with the Chinese foreign minister as well as President Xi. Those meetings considered widely successful. You know, Secretary of State Antony Blinken was the first Secretary of State from the U.S. to have these meetings and go to China in 5 years. But this back and forth at this point doesn't seem to have any signs of slowing down. We know that the administration is saying that the president's comments don't represent any sort of major shift in policy towards China. But of course, we know that's a two-way street. And you mentioned China's rebuke of that comment. It's going to be interesting to see how President Xi in the future responds to this. We know that President Biden has been trying to get this in-person meeting with President Xi for some time now. The last time they met in person was in November. So how this comment could potentially affect or impact the potential scheduling of that future meeting is going to be something.
So, Ali, this all comes as President Biden is going to host India's Prime Minister Modi at a state dinner later today. But Modi has come under fire for his own human rights record. Help us understand the intention behind rolling out the red carpet here.
Yeah, this is going to be just the third state visit during President Biden's term after the president of France and South Korea. And there's been some mixed reaction to this, especially because of Prime Minister Modi's history. We know that some human rights organizations have criticized his treatment of Muslims, specifically Muslims in India. We know that India hasn't taken really a side in Ukraine's war with Russia. It's continued to buy Russian oil since the war began. And it also is sort of a spotlight on India's relationship with China that doesn't have any signs of weakening. And so that's one of the main underlying reasons behind this visit and behind this red carpet rollout is to strengthen the partnership between the U.S. and India to sort of counterweight this relationship with China and Chinese aggression, especially in the Indo-Pacific region. So White House officials say that these two are going to discuss those human rights abuses respectfully, privately, but it's going to be interesting to see how that relationship between India and the U.S. is framed, especially in this joint press conference that these two are expected to have, something that's very rare for the prime minister. It hasn't happened in nearly a decade on his part.
All right, we'll be watching. Ali Rafa, thank you so much. Welcome back. The House of Representatives took a rare and controversial step last night, censuring one of its own members. California Congressman Adam Schiff, a Democrat, became just the 25th member of the House to be censured and just the third in the last 20 years. It was a party line vote led by House Republicans.
On this vote, the yeas are 213 and the nays are 209. With 6 answering present, the resolution adopted. Without objection, the motion to consider is laid on the table.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us now with more on this. Ryan, good morning. So the censure was over Trump-era investigations. We know Congressman Schiff has been a vocal critic of the former president. He led that first impeachment inquiry into Trump. So explain how we got to this point, how Schiff is reacting. Folks might have heard in the background there, it was Democrats who were yelling shame while the House Speaker spoke.
Yeah, of course, Schiff, also a prominent member of the January 6th Select Committee as well, Joe. And Adam Schiff really taking this as a badge of honor. This was the second attempt by House Republicans to censure him. The first time the censure resolution included a $16 million fine, and many Republicans felt uncomfortable with that. They removed that fine, and it was enough to get it over the finish line. Schiff seems to not be bothered by this at all. Listen to how he responded to this move by Republicans.
Well, I think once Donald Trump threatened that any Republicans that didn't go along with his effort to censure me were going to get primaried, they fell in line. And this is true of the Republicans generally. They just cannot stand up to this most unethical, now indicted former president. So not a surprise.
Now, no member of Congress wants to be censured, but, Joe, it essentially amounts to nothing more than a slap on the wrist. And for Adam Schiff, there may even be a political benefit to it. He is running for the Senate in California. Donald Trump, not very popular in California. So this is an opportunity for him to show that he is one of Trump's biggest critics in a state where that matters quite a bit.
And, Ryan, you know, it was a busy day yesterday on the Hill. Sort of related to this, former special counsel John Durham testified about his report, which criticized the FBI and its investigation into the Trump campaign's relationship with Russia ahead of the 2016 election. What were some of the key takeaways from that testimony?
Well, you know, it's really hard to track where Republicans stand as it relates to John Durham, Joe. For many, they viewed his investigation as kind of an opportunity to prove that Donald Trump had no connection to the Russian government during the 2016 campaign. And many of them are disappointed that the sum total of his four-year investigation was a report that did say that there were concerns about the way the FBI conducted itself, but it led to very few criminal convictions. In fact, one failed prosecution. And some Republicans are now even saying that Durham is part of the problem. So what we saw yesterday, though, were both Democrats and Republicans using this report as a political pawn. But there is a political tangible result of all of this, Joe. Republicans and Democrats both agree that the FBI and the Department of Justice do need some level of reform. Those reforms will be aimed at the reauthorization of the FISA court, which has to happen by the end of the year. It's expected that there could actually be some bipartisan support to make that happen.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. The Massachusetts Air National Guardsman accused of leaking classified documents has pleaded not guilty to federal charges. Jack Teixeira was indicted last week by a federal grand jury on 6 counts of willful retention and transmission of national defense information. The 21-year-old is accused of leaking classified Defense Department documents on the social media platform Discord. If convicted on all counts, Teixeira faces up to 60 years in prison.
Turning now to the violence raging in the Middle East as the Israeli military says it fired a drone at a militant car driving in the occupied West Bank. 3 people were killed in the strike, according to the Palestinian Civil Defense. The news comes just hours after hundreds of Israeli settlers raided Palestinian towns in the West Bank, setting fire to dozens of homes and cars. NBC News foreign correspondent Molly Hunter joins us now with the latest. Molly, good morning. The Israeli military says this is the first drone strike since 2006. What else have they said about the attack?
Guys, good morning to you. And this really marks kind of another chapter in the escalation that we have seen this week. It has been a very busy, a very violent 4 days in the occupied West Bank. But what the Israeli military is saying about this specific strike, look, surveillance drones, Israeli surveillance drones over the occupied West Bank, those are common. What is not common is a targeted killing, a targeted drone strike, which is what the Israeli military said happened yesterday. And we haven't seen that for about 20 years since the Second Intifada. They are saying that they targeted 3 Palestinian militants, and analysts really suggest, you guys, that the reason this is so important, that now that the Israeli military has kind of gone back to aerial attacks, we may start to see more of this.
And Molly, the strike took place hours after Israeli settlers stormed through Palestinian towns. They say they were retaliating for a shooting the day before, but it was an incredibly violent start to the week after that deadly raid. Can you bring us up to speed?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there have been so many smaller incidents. I'll focus on kind of the bigger events that have marked this week. So Monday saw one of the biggest Israeli raids in Jenin. It's a refugee camp in the north of the occupied West Bank. Hundreds of Israeli troops went in and met very fierce resistance. And why this was different, not only was the resistance very ready for the Israeli troops. Look, we have seen raids in Jenin almost daily. The difference about Monday, you guys, and why this is so important is that the Israeli military then called in helicopter strikes and gunships. And that is also something that we have not seen for about 20 years. The following day, 2 Palestinian gunmen shot and killed 4 Israeli settlers outside of a settlement in the occupied West Bank. The State Department reacted to all of this. Take a quick listen, and I'll talk to you on the backside.
We are also deeply concerned by the rising levels of violence in the West Bank in recent months. There are troubling reports of extremist settler violence against Palestinian civilians, including the death of a Palestinian child and other injuries. We likewise condemn these violent acts and also extend our condolences to the families of those affected.
Guys, the violence is continuing today, and I think really all eyes are on Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, to see what he will do, what his Israeli right-wing government may do in the coming hours and coming days.
Molly, help put this into context for us. Violence is surging this week. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's government announced approved settlement expansion this week. So what happens next?
Yeah, and that's the big question. I think, look, we're watching to see what Netanyahu does. What is interesting in watching the last couple of months as this violence has really ticked up, and this week is unprecedented. We have not seen levels of this kind of violence really in the last year as the violence has been ticking up. But Prime Minister Netanyahu leads the most right-wing government that Israel has ever seen. He is under a lot of pressure from the more right-wing elements of his government, from the settler groups and settler population, to really launch a full-scale military kind of incursion in the occupied West Bank like we saw in the Second Intifada. And what's happening today, is reading the Israeli papers, is there are clearly very clear clashes between the security officials, between the military brass, and between the government about whether or not to kind of escalate. What is interesting this week, and what analysts point to, as we discussed, that drone strike and those helicopter gunships going into the West Bank, those are definitely mark an escalation, something we haven't seen for 20 years. So whether or not this marks or this hints at a fuller scale incursion, that's what we're watching for, guys.
All right, important reporting there. Molly Hunter, thanks so much. More international headlines now. Dozens of people are dead after a gas explosion at a barbecue restaurant in China.
NBC News foreign correspondent Josh Letterman joins us from London with that and other world news. Josh, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. At least 31 people are dead and several others are injured after cooking gas fueled a massive explosion at that barbecue joint just as people were gathering for a holiday weekend. And search and rescue officials actually had to carry unconscious survivors out of the shop. Now, state media are saying that the blast took place when an employee was fixing a gas valve about an hour after employees first smelled gas at the site. Meanwhile, President Xi Jinping, he is now demanding a full safety overhaul. Next, let's go to Russia, where a Moscow court has just denied an appeal by American journalist Evan Gershkovich. The American was appealing the court's decision to keep him locked up throughout the trial on espionage charges. But the U.S. ambassador to Russia, Lynn Tracy, she is calling his case hostage diplomacy. And she says Russia has denied 4 requests so far by the U.S. to visit Gershkovich in prison. Russia, they say they are considering the most recent American request. And finally, to the United Nations headquarters in New York, where India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi showed off his yoga skills as he began his visit to the U.S. Modi joined hundreds of others on the UN lawn to do back bends, breathing exercises, and even yoga poses for more than a half an hour, putting a real spotlight on one of India's biggest cultural exports. And Modi is saying that yoga isn't just about exercise, it's really about a way of life. And I bet millions of yogis in America and around the world, they seem to agree with him.
Yeah, no,
guys.
I was just wondering, what if all government meetings just started with a yoga session? Would that solve a lot of our problems?
Practicing some mindfulness.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Maybe that would help. Josh, thank you so much. Welcome back. Summer is here, and warm weather is not the only thing arriving on doorsteps this season. hordes of creepy crawlers are invading parts of the U.S.
But these aren't your usual multi-legged summertime pests. We're talking about swarms of crickets, invasive spotted lanternflies, and even giant snails. Breakfast. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock has more on what's buzzing this summer.
It's not the apocalypse or even a plague, but it's pretty close.
Oh, sweet baby Lord Jesus. I'm a prisoner in my own home.
Like something out of a Stephen King novel, the summer of creepy crawly is here.
We just stay inside. We don't go outside.
Out west, from Idaho to Utah to Nevada, it's the snap, crackle, and pop of summer 2023. These katydids, also known as Mormon crickets, have exploded with eggs that can lay dormant anywhere between 5 and 11 years, but now have hatched en masse.
They will simply form a tsunami and roll across the landscape, devouring everything in sight. And this is what's underway right now.
The big red bugs are everywhere and eat everything. Their migration's a natural phenomenon, and after a couple of months, they'll mate and die. But for now,
This is a pile of dead Mormon crickets. Yeah, that is absolutely foul.
Squish.
not to be outdone. From the mid-Atlantic and Northeast to parts of the Midwest, spotted lanternflies, an invasive species, are back. Experts say they're harmless to people and pets, but they do pose a threat to several varieties of trees, orchards, hops, and grapes, and especially threaten the $170 billion U.S. wine industry.
This is going to be a major headache for our grape growers, and fingers crossed they don't get to California and the Napa Valley.
And as this summer of infestations continues, a portion of Broward County, Florida has been placed under quarantine as state officials work to get rid of giant African land snails, which can grow up to 8 inches in length and produce 500 eggs at a time. Beyond their ability to damage hundreds of different crops, the snails can also carry meningitis.
I don't want anybody to get sick, and they do leave a slimy residue behind, so God forbid somebody doesn't know and they touch somewhere where they've been crawling.
Kawana Jones first started seeing the snails at her home months ago and posted these pictures to Facebook.
The very first one that we saw in that tree over there was literally like your fist.
The state came right away, and she says extracted around 90 snails from the immediate area. A host of unwanted pests nationwide has Americans itching for some relief.
This is disgusting on so many different levels.
I'm thoroughly grossed out. Our thanks to Sam Brock for that reporting.
Let's keep the conversation going, why don't we? Dr. Jean Kritsky, Dean of Behavioral and Natural Sciences at Mount St. Joseph University, joins us now with more on this pest invasion. Maybe it's not the best morning television, but it is an important topic, Dr. Kritsky. So talk to us. Do we know why states like Utah, Nevada, Idaho, Florida are just swarming with these different types of critters right now?
Certainly. Good morning. The Mormon cricket, which is not really a true cricket, it's actually a katydid in the family of katydids. It's been around for decades. Indeed, the first major infestation that we have on record is 1848, when myriads of these crickets moved over northern parts of northeastern Utah. And of course, they're also found in Nevada, as we're seeing in the reports, southern Idaho and western Montana and so on. And it led to what was called the miracle of the gulls, if you will. The people living there had just planted their crops, and these insects were coming in and devouring everything. And so they had a miracle occur when thousands of gulls landed and ate all the crickets, saving the crops.
Dr. Kritsky, these crickets in particular, are they dangerous? Should we be worried about them? How can people get rid of them?
Well, they normally they're in very small numbers on some years. They can reach these large numbers of about 100 per square yard, which is incredible. And they will form these roving bands that move up to some could be as many as 50 miles long, which is quite incredible. They cause a difficulty for non-agriculturalists by being on roads, and people will drive over them, crush them. They'll produce this horrible smell. The road looks almost red, like it's covered in blood, but it makes the roads very slippery. And so there's a road hazard involved. But they eat up to 400 different species of plants. And some research done back in 2006 suggested that the reason they're moving so quickly and so fast and in such numbers is that Mormon crickets are also cannibalistic. And this roving band is moving because the crickets behind them want to eat them. They're a perfect balance of salt and proteins and what have you. So there's nothing we really can do. It's thought that in many cases, these outbreaks, which occur periodically, is weather related. But those are not, that's very different from the spotted lanternflies and the snails, because these have been here for a long time, the Mormon crickets. The spotted lanternfly, on the other hand, was introduced into the U.S. back in 2014, and it's been slowly spreading out from its focal point in Berks County, Pennsylvania. And that, as you mentioned in the report, can cause significant economic damage to agriculture. It can ruin a wine industry because they like to feed on grapes. They also feed on hops. Their preferred host tree is the tree of heaven. And what we can do about those is, if you should see an aggregation of these things, spray them with soapy water, scrape off the egg masses, and that will kill those individuals and make it difficult for them to spread. They're spreading by hitchhiking in many cases. We find them along areas where that borders like the railroad tracks. They'll fly and land. The adults will fly and land and lay eggs on everything from cars to on trains, and then spread out in that direction. I had the opportunity just last fall to see one of the first populations here in Southwest Ohio. And we've been hoping that it wasn't here because it was in Cleveland and Youngstown earlier, and they seemed to leapfrog all the way over the state into southern Indiana, and now we have them here in Cincinnati.
Wow. Truly educational, Dr. Gene Kritsky. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We're back with alarming new data that shows the students' math and reading skills are on the decline nationwide. Test results released yesterday showed that 13-year-olds are scoring the lowest we've seen in decades, and educators say it'll have a ripple effect for years. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Gosk has more on what some are calling an educational crisis.
Across all regions and affecting all kids, new test scores show dramatic learning loss, the single largest drop in math scores for 13-year-olds since the National Assessment of Educational Progress began 50 years ago, down 9 points from 2019 before the pandemic to the fall of 2022. Reading is not much better, down 4 points.
This is a crisis that America cannot ignore. The long-term educational crisis facing our students has by far outpaced the physical threat that COVID ever presented to them.
Alberto Carvalho is the superintendent for LA Unified School District, the second largest in the country, where they are focusing on summer school, teacher training, and a longer school year to make up lost ground.
The recovery needs to be swift, needs to be strategic, with the right investments and the right approaches to teaching kids.
Maryland middle school teacher Shannon O'Connor says many of her students are no longer engaged.
There still has to be some expectation of responsibility on the student's part. And for a large chunk of them, that has kind of gone to the wayside.
How difficult is it to get them back on track if you don't have that buy-in?
It's really hard. We try to make it as fun as possible while still keeping to our content and the standards that we have to teach.
An age group way behind heading into the critical high school years, with the school system still struggling to get them ready. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
The Federal Trade Commission is suing Amazon for allegedly tricking users into signing up for Amazon Prime and then making it hard to cancel their memberships. It's the latest effort by regulators to crack down on tech companies' so-called dark patterns. NBC News national correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has the story.
Amazon Prime has more than 200 million customers worldwide, and the Federal Trade Commission says the online retail giant duped people into signing up for the service and then made it extremely tough to cancel.
I think for any subscription service, it shouldn't be difficult to cancel, especially for a company like Amazon that's making a lot of money from a lot of consumers.
The lawsuit against Amazon follows a 2-year FTC investigation. In it, the FTC says Amazon used manipulative, coercive, or deceptive user interface designs known as dark patterns to trick consumers into enrolling in automatically renewing Prime subscriptions. Amazon Prime customers usually pay $139 a year and get free expedited shipping on millions of items, plus other discounts and access to streaming movies and music. The lawsuit is the most aggressive action against the company so far by the FTC's chair, who has been critical of Amazon in the past.
It's 59 degrees with rain.
Separately, Amazon had agreed to pay $25 million last month to settle FTC claims that Alexa devices had illegally collected children's data. The latest part of a broader effort by regulators to limit the power of tech companies.
This is a big signal to the rest of the tech companies that you better clean up your act. Make it easier for people to unsubscribe. Make sure customers know what they are getting and what they're signing up for.
Amazon, meanwhile, says the FTC's claims are false. The company says it's clear and simple for customers to both sign up for and cancel their Prime membership. And it looks forward to proving its case in court. Back to you.
Gabe, thanks so much.
More money news now, with the CEOs of several tech titans heading to the White House tonight to meet with India's Prime Minister.
CNBC's Silvana Hanawa joins us with that and other money news. Silvana, good morning.
Valerie, Joe, good morning to you. Yes, so the CEOs of Apple, Google, and Microsoft are among the list of executives attending a White House state dinner for India's Prime Minister this evening. Sources say those leaders will also meet separately with Narendra Modi tomorrow, where they'll discuss diversifying business away from China. We've already seen several corporate deals timed to Modi's visit. GE Aerospace signing a pact to produce fighter jet engines for India's Air Force. Spirit Aerosystems, that's a major Boeing supplier, will shut down production at its factory in Wichita, Kansas, after union workers rejected a proposed contract deal. The machinist union announcing a strike will start on Saturday. The factory makes parts for most Boeing jetliners, including the fuselage for the 737 and 787 Dreamliner. And Amazon isn't the only place you can find big deals next month. Best Buy has announced a Black Friday in July event to counter Prime Day. Now, this one runs from July 10th through the 12th. Shoppers will be able to find discounts on TVs, smartwatches, laptops, and other items from brands like Samsung, Apple, and Sony. Offers are available online, in-store, and through the Best Buy app. And if you're a member of the My Best Buy Plus or My Best Buy Total, you can get exclusive access to special deals and even better discount, guys.
Huh, interesting. I wonder if that'll become a contagious trend we'll start to see to compete with Amazon.
More opportunities to shop.
No kidding. Good for the consumer. Silvana, thank you.
Between resumes, qualifications, and endless interviews, getting a job can be hard. And on top of all of that, for some, there's one small thing that could be getting in between you and your dream gig: your name.
With help from some of her colleagues, NBC News correspondent Zincle Asamoah took a personal look at how having a unique name can lead to discrimination.
My name is Jung-Han Park.
My name is Violeta Yas.
My name is Zincle Asamoah. For many of us, there's a story behind our names.
Zincle means the beautiful one, or the deeds of the Lord are beautiful.
Recently, some of my colleagues and I spoke to NBCU Academy, NBC's journalism and content creation program, about our experiences with name discrimination. Jung-Han Park is a photojournalist with NBC from South Korea, moving to the U.S. at 15. Violeta Yas is a meteorologist with our NBC affiliates WNBC and WNJU, born in Argentina, immigrating to the U.S. at 5 years old. And I'm a first-generation American.
Name discrimination is essentially when someone makes a negative judgment or draws a negative inference based solely on the other person's name.
It shows up in many forms.
People couldn't pronounce it. People didn't recognize it.
Violeta Yas says she struggled with constant mispronunciations in school.
I was a big Saved by the Bell fan. I just decided my new name was going to be Kelly.
Jung-Han Park also changed his name after becoming a U.S. citizen in 1997.
My name was used as a racial slur, and I was haunted every day. So I started to hate my name.
Name discrimination can also result in missed opportunities.
It could mean getting denied a loan, a mortgage, being denied admission to academia.
A 2023 study finding ethnic minorities received 57.4% fewer positive responses than applicants with English-sounding names, despite identical resumes. To address this, Embrace Change's Cynthia Pong has 3 suggestions for employers. First, for critical decision points, including hiring or promotions.
Consider doing that type of thing without the name or that specific identifying information.
Secondly, she says train employees, especially leaders, about name discrimination. And third, rely on the data.
Organization-wide reviews periodically to look at, are there people who are getting stuck?
As for those experiencing name discrimination,
remember, it's not your fault, and it's always your prerogative to decide what you want to do.
For Yas and Park, eventually they return to their given names with a twist.
When I do the news in English, I introduce myself as Violeta Yas, and when I do the news in Spanish, I'm Violeta Yas.
So I decided to go with my first name J and the last name P and just go with the initials.
As for me, my mom asked if I wanted to change my name as a teenager. I chose to remain simply Zinclay.
All of those names tell the story of me, of my ancestors, both in the past, but also who I can be and become.
All right, Zinclay, thanks so much for that report. And for more on Zinclay's reporting on name bias, you can go to NBCUacademy.com.
A house that has twice broken the record for most expensive home in America is going for the record a third time. Casa Encantada in Bel Air is on the market for $250 million. If it fetched that, it would break the previous record set by a penthouse in New York back in 2019. The house, which was built in the 1930s, is 40,000 square feet and sits on 8.5 acres of land next to Bel Air Country Club. Past owners include hotel giant Conrad Hilton and billionaire David Murdoch. And Joe, if you're in the market, it's available.
They go, well, it can't be that nice if people keep wanting to sell it, right? Thanks,
Depends on how many bathrooms it has.
Exactly. All right. Thanks, Valerie. Finally, this hour, as we approach the final weekend of Pride Month, New York is gearing up for its big celebration with a massive parade on Sunday. But Pride is not just a big city event. More and more smaller towns are celebrating, too, often in the face of some serious resistance. In the heart of Massachusetts, you'll find North Brookfield, a rural town with a population just under 5,000.
How much do you love this community?
I love this community more than I have words to even tell you.
Sue Lyons has called this place home since the 70s.
When I first moved to North Brookfield, I'll be very frank with you, I was practically the only person I knew that was gay.
Times have changed. This weekend, this quiet field will be plastered in rainbows as North Brookfield holds its first small-town Pride.
It's been a long time coming, to be quite honest with you.
But organizers with the Rural Justice Network never thought this tiny town would make national headlines, all because their celebration features a drag performance.
We've encountered a lot of hate.
Anthony Bobenzi, also known as Nikita LaFemme, is one of the performers.
What does this hate look like? It comes in all different forms, people saying stuff online, threats.
Amid a nationwide drag backlash, in April, North Brookfield's town board voted to ban the drag show, calling it adult entertainment.
The majority of these shows do include sexual innuendo.
The ACLU quickly responded, calling that decision unconstitutional, with LGBTQ groups arguing these shows are not sexually explicit.
At these small town events, they are very tame performances. It just shows people that it's okay to be themselves.
The board did reverse course, clearing the way for the show to go on, but the threats remain.
Personally, I do get scared. I think people would understand if you said, I'm going to sit this one out. That's not in me. I'm a fighter.
They know Pride is rooted in protest, inspired by the 1969 Stonewall Uprising.
I am not afraid, and I will refuse to be afraid.
A spirit that still echoes across towns big and small. Small Town Pride is scheduled for this Saturday in North Brookfield. Organizers say they wanted to send a message of hope to other Pride celebrations that may be facing similar obstacles. This Rural Justice Network has actually put on others in surrounding communities over the past couple of years. This is the first time it's in North Brookfield. They're hoping to have a nice event.
Time to celebrate for them.
Exactly. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now. Good Thursday morning. I'm Valerie Castro in for Savannah Sellers.
And I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, the race against time. This morning, the search to find that missing submersible off the Atlantic coast is ramping up. Even though the Coast Guard estimates that oxygen supply on board is running out, there are new mysterious underwater noises that rescuers are hearing for a second day, plus the chilling new video that has surfaced of the vessel's final moments before diving to view the wreck of the Titanic. We'll have team coverage as search efforts reach a breakneck pace, expanding to an area twice the size of Connecticut. Also, devastating weather. A small town in Texas is reeling this morning from a powerful suspected tornado overnight. Authorities say at least 4 people were killed and 9 others injured. Just the latest headline amid days of wicked weather across the country, searing heat, violent storms, even hail caught on camera pummeling concert goers in Colorado last night. We're covering it all this morning. Plus, lights out, are fireflies here in North America at risk of going extinct? We've got some troubling new data that puts a new spotlight on a nighttime feature of summer, plus what you can do to help keep those lights on. And Hoop Loophole. He is an inspiring lawyer, just 21 years old. He's never played a single season of basketball, yet he is set to join tonight's NBA draft. So how did he do it? He joins us later in the hour to explain his buzzer beater of a move.
I guess we'll find the secret out.
If he actually gets drafted, that would be quite the extraordinary story here. We'll see. Don't think that's going to happen. Looking forward to that conversation. Let's start this hour, though, of course, with the effort to locate that missing submersible in the Atlantic. Time is running out.
Throughout the day, we'll see additional rescue teams and equipment arriving on scene, but they are fighting against time. The Coast Guard estimates that the oxygen on board the vessel will run out as early as this morning. And there are still concerns about what can be done, even if they do successfully locate the vessel. It is likely thousands of feet deeper underwater than most rescue subs can safely operate. Reaching it and safely bringing it to the surface could prove difficult. In just a moment, we'll talk with U.S. Navy Captain David Marquette about the ongoing rescue operation. But we start with NBC News correspondent Tom Costello at Coast Guard headquarters in Boston. Good morning, Tom.
Yeah, good morning to you. So we are now past that moment when they believed that the air on board that sub would have run out. The hope is that maybe on board the sub they have been trying to remain calm to conserve oxygen. But they've got other issues going on there as well. It's getting cold down there. If they're at that depth, that could lead to hypothermia. And then, as you mentioned, how would they ever get that sub up and out of the water if they can find it? We can tell you that more assets are on the scene this morning. More Canadian ships have now arrived. More ROVs, robots, going into the water, searching the bottom for any signs of the sub. The world is watching, and the world is holding out hope.
An already urgent effort to find that missing sub in the North Atlantic is kicking into an even higher gear this morning as rescuers face an incredibly ominous fight against time. With the supply of air on the vessel that disappeared on a dive to the Titanic wreck believed to be nearing its end. Still, the Coast Guard and others are not slowing their efforts. Additional resources coming in by air and sea overnight and throughout the day.
This is a search and rescue mission, 100%. We'll continue to put every available asset that we have.
On Wednesday, Canadian air crews who dropped sonar buoys into the water reported once again hearing unusual noises in the water, which some said sounded like banging. Experts are using specialized acoustic equipment to analyze the sounds, to rule out other ships or marine life. So far, their effort to identify a source has been inconclusive.
The bottom line is there are a lot of sounds in the ocean.
That's right. The needle in the haystack is to separate that signal that they want to hear from all the other sounds that are happening there.
Now, video is emerging captured by a crew member on board the sub's mothership, showing, she says, the moments the submersible began its descent. For family and friends of the 5 people aboard that sub owned by Ocean Gate and dubbed Titan, it's been an especially stressful time.
I'm in a state of shock at the moment.
In Pakistan, Muhammad Hashim says he's had a tough time sleeping. His longtime friend, Shahzada Dawood, and Dawood's son, Suleiman, are still down there.
He was very adventurous, but from inside, he was a very soft, kind, and very selfless kind of a person.
Titan lost contact on Sunday during what should have been another submersible journey to the Titanic's resting place. Discovery's Josh Gates went inside the sub during a test phase in 2021, filming for his show Expedition Unknown.
There are aspects of the sub's design that are incredibly impressive.
But he says ultimately they scrapped plans to do an episode going all the way down to Titanic.
You know, we had issues with thruster control. We had issues with the computers aboard. We had issues with comms. I just felt as though the sub needed more time and it needed more testing, frankly.
So among the many concerns here, air potentially running out, also carbon dioxide levels rising in a sub. That could create a situation where people literally start falling asleep, and then that becomes toxic as well. And guys, just to emphasize this point, if this sub is 2.5 miles deep, the only way to rescue those people would be to pull it up with some major hydraulic lifting capacity. That is incredibly challenging. Nothing you can just immediately turn on a switch and have it start moving. And the other option would be if they could free it so that it could float to the surface on its own. That alone would take 2.5 hours. Back to you guys.
Difficult situation, Tom. We know the Coast Guard has been at this search for days now. How long are they expected to keep it up?
Well, they emphasize this continues to be a search and rescue operation. They have not said if there's a time limit on how long they would keep this pace up with their Canadian colleagues, with the French also on scene. I think you're talking about probably giving it several days. But listen, Hamish Harding, one of the people who was on board that sub, he said when he was going down to the Mariana Trench, he was aware that if something happens at that depth, there's no coming back.
All right, Tom, thanks so much. Let's bring in retired U.S. Navy Captain David Marquet. He's also the author of the book, Turn the Ship Around. David, good morning, and thanks for joining us again today. The crew is expected to run out of air at some point today. Do you expect the search strategy to change over the next few hours?
Maybe. There are two searches. There's the search on the surface and the search on the bottom. It's generally binary. When the submarine lost communications, I would have expected either they would have returned immediately to the surface, or whatever caused them to lose communications caused them to also go to the bottom. So they're either on the surface or the bottom. The surface search is complicated because you have multiple currents in that area. You have the Gulf Stream going in one direction. You have cold water coming down along the coast of Canada in another. There are eddies. So we're using models to try and predict where that submarine could have drifted and then flying the airplanes in patterns over those models. Now, if it's gone 200 miles away and we find it, we got to get there. And so the timeline there seems pretty unlikely. So I would probably start concentrating the search in the area where if we find them, we can get to them rapidly, because that will maximize the chance that they'll be recovered. Same thing on the bottom. Now there was a much smaller search area. The Titanic debris field is 5 miles by 3. They're probably somewhere near there. It's hard to find because there are other pieces of the Titanic in the area. But if they've somehow got lodged into the ship, if they got stuck underneath a propeller, then we're probably not going to get them out anyway. So I would search in clear areas, because there is equipment that has been sent to St. John, been loaded on a ship and carried out to this area, which, if they are found in a clear area on the bottom, we'll be able to get them up to the surface. But if they're lodged inside the Titanic, then I don't think they have time.
All right, a lot of variables at play here. The Coast Guard released a graphic of their search patterns on the right. That's what they have completed as of Tuesday. And on the left, that shows the patterning on Wednesday. What does this tell you about how they're approaching this?
Well, that's very common to see, sort of those sawtooths. I'm going up and down. There's basically two means of searching when you're looking on the surface. One is this: airplanes are dropping these sonar buoys, which look like basically poster tubes, and they drop into the water and then they're listening. So those ought to be concentrated near the area of the Titanic. Then the rest of the search is by radar and by eyeball. And unfortunately, when the dive started early on Sunday, it looks like they submerged about 7 in the morning. Around 8:45, communications were lost. But the Coast Guard wasn't notified until 9:40 that evening, according to a timeline by The Guardian. We lost 13 hours there, but more critically, that was daylight hours. So by the time the Coast Guard airplanes get out there, midnight or so, it's a 2-hour flight from Boston to get out to the location. Now it's dark, and we're not going to see anything until the sun comes up at about 5:30 in the morning.
All right, so many variables at stake, lives at stake, water, ocean currents, a lot of things to keep in mind. David Marquet, thank you so much.
We turn now to the deadly storm sweeping across Texas overnight. At least 4 people were killed after a tornado struck the small town of Matador, leaving a wide swath of destruction. NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer is in Texas with the latest on those storms and the sweltering weather conditions impacting millions statewide.
This is all part of that overnight weather system that just slammed into Texas. Outside of Houston, trees are down and some have lost power. Meantime, closer to Lubbock, Texas, at least 4 were killed and 10 were injured in a tornado. It seems Texas can't catch a break.
This morning, wild summer weather across the country as another deadly tornado hits Texas. The twister tearing through the tiny town of Matador, home to about 570 people, 70 miles northeast of Lubbock. Buildings like these left in pieces, completely unrecognizable.
We are out here in Matador where that tornado touched down, and I wish I could tell you where we are, but the amount of destruction that is in this area, I honestly don't know what street we are on.
It comes as Americans are recovering from powerful weather systems that wreaked havoc. Severe storms from the Rockies to the southern plains and flooding in the southeast. Storms along the East Coast and severe heat and heavy hail in the Midwest and West. In Colorado, concertgoers at Red Rocks Park and Amphitheater in Morrison were pummeled by heavy hail.
You okay?
In Houston, storms overnight, leaving hundreds of thousands without power. Wind gusts approaching 100 miles an hour. Throughout Texas, residents have already been feeling the heat.
Literally, we're having to sit in the cold baths just to cool ourselves down.
Excessive heat warnings were in effect yesterday throughout the state. It hit 103 in Corpus Christi, 108 in Lubbock, all-time highs in San Angelo and Del Rio, 114 and 115 degrees, the hottest temperatures ever recorded on any day in those cities. This morning, Texans hoping for some much-needed relief after a punishing start to the summer.
As the cleanup continues across Texas, there's going to be a lot of focus on restoring power. Temperatures across so much of this state are easily going to soar into the triple digits. Folks will need to run their air conditioners to stay cool. Back to you.
All right, Miguel, thank you.
Now, with more on how the severe weather could be impacting you, let's take a look at your Morning News Now forecast.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman is with us. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Unfortunately, we have all of those same kind of threats today. We have the heavy rain that's focused towards the east. We've got the severe weather in parts of the plains, and we've still got to deal with that heat that is sticking around for a couple more days in places like Texas. Now, let's start with the rain. There's your satellite and radar. You can see the batches of rain that are continuing to swing in. Some really strong thunderstorms erupting overnight and into the early morning hours for parts of the panhandle of Florida. They've already picked up over 12 inches of rain in that area. So no surprise that we have a flash flood warning happening there. But we also have flood watches in place. Let me try that again for 14 million people stretching from Virginia all the way down into Florida. Because of that repeated rainfall that we're going to see over the next couple of days, we're going to pick up additional rain on already saturated grounds, and that's causing some problem and definitely some flooding concerns. Here's the system that is the culprit. You can see it kind of starts to swing some of the rain into parts of the Northeast. A nice day today in parts of northern New England, but really anywhere south of that, you're going to see some of this rain working in. So umbrella handy, D.C., New York, Boston, it's going to be helpful. Through tomorrow, we'll see the rain working into the mid-Atlantic as well. There's those rainfall totals. The highest, I think we'll see maybe another 5 inches in some spots. Those will be localized, but widespread. We could pick up another 1 to 3 inches. So the flooding will be a real possibility through the next couple of days. Switching gears, talking about the severe threat, that's focused towards the plains. Some of those similar spots that dealt with these stronger storms yesterday, too. Denver included in this. The wind, the hail, the tornadoes, all on the table. The tornado threat is a little lower, but we still have the potential to see some wind gusts up to 75 miles per hour. And that hail, we saw the video coming out of parts of Colorado yesterday. Today, we do have the potential from Cheyenne stretching into parts of Texas for us to see that hen egg-sized hail. Of course, that would be damaging and could definitely injure you if you're outdoors during that. That's going to be this evening into tonight. night. Into the afternoon hours, boy, we're getting ready for another hot day across this area. The same locations dealing with that oppressive heat. 18 million people are under these heat alerts right now, and for good reason. The oppressive conditions continue. San Antonio, you're headed to 100 degrees. Del Rio, 109, feeling like 112. You heard Miguel talking about some of those records that we broke yesterday. San Angelo with the all-time record of 114. We're going to continue to see even the spots that are into the 90s feel more like the high 90s or triple digits into the afternoon hours. So no real relief here, at least not in the short term. We end up into the middle of the week, or the later part of the weekend, I should say, with temperatures back into the high 90s in Baton Rouge, triple digits for Houston. So even being into the upper 90s for the weekend in those places, not much of a break for folks there. The heat continues for Friday. The severe risk will also continue for Friday, but it'll be more focused towards a little farther east from where it is now. We'll see nice conditions in parts of the Midwest. It'll be nice out west, too, for your Friday. That flood threat will continue along the East Coast, and gorgeous conditions for the West Coast as we roll into the weekend. Not so much for parts of the Midwest and the plains. We'll see that those stronger storms kind of focus there, but the heat wave continues, guys, unfortunately, as we get into Saturday, and no relief on Sunday, but sunny and warm. If you're looking for some more mild conditions, say Pacific Northwest might be the good place to be.
Middle of the country just looks like indoor weather.
Yes,
we should just
exactly.
call it.
Movies.
Exactly. Movies and air conditioning.
Yeah.
Angie, thank you.
This morning, Republicans in Congress are vowing to ramp up their investigations of Hunter Biden's business dealings. It's part of a series of probes targeting the president. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles is in Washington with the latest. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Valerie, good morning to you. And Hunter Biden's lawyers made it clear he believes the investigation into his client is over. But on Capitol Hill, Republican lawmakers are convinced there's still more dirt to dig up on the president's son, and the Biden son's legal woes becoming a pestering political problem for his father.
The Department of Justice may be prepared to close the book on the Hunter Biden saga, but on Capitol Hill, Republicans are just getting started.
So I think other investigations will go on.
Republicans remain convinced the president's family is involved in a bribery scheme, which they allege involve Hunter Biden's overseas business dealings. The president has denied any wrongdoing and has said he has never spoke to his son about his business deals. And the plea deal Hunter just cut also does not involve his overseas work. But Republicans on both the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees are continuing to conduct wide-ranging probes of the president's family, as well as federal law enforcement unfairly targeting former President Trump.
I don't think they're going to give it up.
So far, those probes have turned up accusations, but little hard evidence. And Democrats argue it's just a tactic to take the pressure off Trump.
They are embarrassed by what happened to the president, former president in Florida. They believe that even allowing a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney to take over the case against Hunter Biden without interference from the president is not good enough.
On Wednesday, House members grilled John Durham, the special counsel tasked with looking into the origins of the investigation into possible ties between the Trump campaign and the Russian government.
You lost all the cases you brought to trial, correct?
Correct.
Republicans attempting to show that the Mueller probe revealed fundamental flaws in the federal law enforcement infrastructure.
We found troubling violations of law and policy in the conduct of highly consequential investigations directed at members of a presidential campaign.
The public airing of Durham's probe, just one aspect of Republican attempts to relitigate the aftermath of the 2016 race. Also censured California Congressman Adam Schiff for his role in the Russia probe.
Sometimes you can judge a person by the enemies they make. Judging from the kind of crazy people that were on the floor today supporting this resolution, I'm doing really well measured by that standard.
And there is even a push to put a vote on the floor to impeach President Biden. But even the House Speaker Kevin McCarthy argues that goes a little too far. Instead of taking the vote right to the floor, he has rerouted the process through a series of House committees. Valerie?
Ryan, thanks so much.
A January 6 rioter who tased a Capitol officer in the neck has been sentenced to 12.5 years in prison. Daniel D.J. Rodriguez pleaded guilty in February to multiple felonies, including felony conspiracy and obstruction of an official proceeding. He traveled from California to the Capitol on January 6 and organized with other rioters. During the attack on the Capitol, Rodriguez used a stun gun to attack Capitol Police Officer Michael Fanone. Rodriguez later bragged about it online. This is one of the longest sentences is given to a January 6th defendant.
We're back now with the latest on the Wall Street Journal reporter who remains in Russian custody on espionage charges.
Evan Gershkovich appeared in court earlier this morning to appeal his extended detention. That appeal was denied. He was arrested back in March while on a reporting trip. Gershkovich has denied any wrongdoing, and the U.S. has declared him to be wrongfully detained. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons has the latest.
Hey there, good day to you. Well, we got the news today that Evan Gershkovich has once again lost his appeal, meaning he will remain in pre-trial detention. He appeared in that courtroom wearing jeans and a dark T-shirt. Inside that now all too familiar transparent box with his arms folded. There was a moment where he appeared to smile. His mom and dad were in the courtroom. So was the U.S. ambassador. Evan Gershkovich, his newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, and the U.S. government all vehemently deny the espionage charges against him. The U.S. ambassador speaking outside the courtroom saying Evan Gershkovich is showing remarkable strength and resistance, saying that the U.S. has had requests for consular access to Evan Gershkovich denied 3 times and accusing the Russians of, quote, hostage diplomacy. Now, it will be months before a trial takes place. In most cases, with espionage charges in Russia, they do end in a conviction. There is talk between Russian officials and U.S. officials about some kind of a prisoner swap of Evan Gershkovich, and also Paul Whelan, that U.S. citizen who is convicted of espionage and still held in Russia. But for now, the U.S. simply demanding that both men are released immediately.
All right, Keir, thank you so much. More international headlines now at the latest out of Ukraine, where a strike by Ukrainian forces hit a key bridge.
Let's bring back NBC News foreign correspondent Josh Letterman in London for more on that and other world news. Josh, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. That missile hit one of just a handful of bridges that connects Russian-occupied Crimea with the Ukrainian mainland. And local Russian-installed officials have been saying that the roadway was damaged and they had to divert traffic, but that nobody was killed. But it comes as Ukraine is working to cut off Crimea from other Russian-controlled areas in Ukraine in hopes it might increase their leverage in future negotiations, or potentially they hope to retake the Crimean Peninsula, which Russia invaded and then annexed back in 2014. Now let's go to Honduras, where the death toll has risen to at least 46 following a women's prison riot on Tuesday. Relatives of the 900 or so inmates have been lining up outside the public morgue seeking information about the victims, many of whom burned to death. Now, the Honduran president has said that he believes street gangs planned the riot with the knowledge of prison guards. And so he says the country's military police will take over most of Honduras's prisons for the next year to try to clean up the system. And finally, to the jungles of southern Mexico, where anthropologists have discovered the ruins of an ancient Mayan city that may be more than 1,000 years old. The site includes large stone columns, large buildings shaped like pyramids, and other structures that are arranged in circles. These researchers discovered it using aerial laser mapping, and they believe it may have been an important center of Mayan civilization before that area would have been declining somewhere between about 800 and 1000 AD. Back to you.
Pretty cool discovery. All right, Josh, thank you so much. We're back with new developments in the search for that submersible that went missing during an expedition to the Titanic wreckage. Search teams are now zeroing in on noises detected underwater by the Canadian Air Force. But we don't yet know if those sounds are distress signals from the 5 passengers who are on board the Titan. NBC News correspondent Kristen Dahlgren is following the latest from Boston. Kristen, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Yeah, it's really pins and needles time here. In the past hour or so, we got word that that French ROV is now in the water, being lowered down. A Canadian ROV already at the sea floor looking for the Titan. These are really critical moments right now in the search for that submersible.
This morning, more crews joining the desperate search for that missing submersible, covering an area twice the size of Connecticut and 2.5 miles deep. The massive search effort focused on underwater sounds. First picked up by a Canadian plane on Tuesday and heard again at times on Wednesday. Searchers trying desperately to isolate the sound and its origin.
The noises have been described as banging noises, but they have to eliminate potential man-made sources other than the Titan.
Search planes have now dropped sonobuoys across a massive swath of ocean. The device is capable of hearing sound from miles away, but pinpointing that sound can be quite difficult.
The ocean is a very complex place, and it's very difficult to discern what the source of those noises are at times.
Still, with the Titan possibly 2 miles beneath the sea, where it is pitch black and ice cold, sound has become one of the only possible clues so far.
How important is sound in this search?
Sound is really important because it's the only thing you can go a great distance. Light doesn't travel very far underwater.
Sonar is short for sound navigation and ranging, and in effect uses sound waves to see underwater. Late Wednesday, a long-awaited French ship with a high-tech remote-operated vehicle arrived. The robot Victor 6000 capable of diving even deeper than the Titanic. Perhaps the first time searchers will actually be able to put eyes on the Titanic wreck since the submersible disappeared.
They bring some state-of-the-art equipment, and so once they get on, we're going to have more assets down to look, and we'll continue to put them where we think the best location is.
Trying to pinpoint a tiny submersible with high-tech tools from around the world.
So if they were able to find the submersible, it is still a complicated effort to get it back up to the surface. Could take some time. The question then becomes the breathable air. The Coast Guard has repeatedly said that the amount of breathable air that they've been giving us, just estimates. There are a lot of complicating factors in that. So at this point, Joe, this is still very much an active rescue operation.
Right. Kristen Dahlgren, thank you so much for the latest.
Turning now to the latest on the AI revolution, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is introducing a strategy for regulation of artificial intelligence.
This comes as AI experts warn of the harm that unchecked development could do to humanity. NBC News technology correspondent Jake Ward has more.
A race to put guardrails around artificial intelligence.
We need to manage the risks to our society, to our economy, and our national security.
A day after President Biden met with experts in how the technology can potentially amplify everything from discrimination to mental health crises in children, the Senate Majority Leader revealed the beginnings of a plan to rein in AI.
We come together at a moment of revolution, not one of weapons or of political power, but a revolution in science and understanding that will change humanity.
Everyone that I've talked to is in agreement.
Tech insiders like former Google CEO Eric Schmidt say it has tremendous potential.
Getting better materials, solving climate change, managing our energy systems better. There's a lot of reasons to think that this technology can do all of that.
And Schmidt says industry, not government, should lead the way on fighting the dangers.
Because there's no way a non-industry person can understand what is possible. It's just too new, too hard. There's not the expertise. There's no one in the government who can get it right. But the industry can roughly get it right, and then the government can put a regulatory structure around it.
Schumer agrees that traditional congressional action will move too slowly for the rapidly growing field of AI.
By the time we act, AI will have evolved into something new. This will not do. A new approach is required.
That's why he's proposing legislation beyond slow congressional hearings, hoping to engage with the industry in a series of policy forums this fall.
If government doesn't step in, who will fill its place? Individuals in the private sector can't do the work of protecting our country.
The U.S. regulatory approach has been slow compared to the EU, where AI is categorized and in some cases outlawed by risk level. And in China, draft regulations make companies legally liable for anyone's misuse of the technology. Senator Schumer seeking to catch up with a fast-moving industry.
If we don't set the norms for AI's proper uses, others will.
Our thanks to Jake Ward for that report. On Tuesday, a bipartisan group of lawmakers rolled out the National AI Commission Act. If signed into law, it would create a commission to evaluate the best way for the U.S. to regulate AI.
We're back now with financial news, and the fight to contain inflation is not over yet.
CNBC's Silvana Henao is back with that and other money news. Silvana, good morning.
Hey, Valerie. Hey, Joe. Good morning to you. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell will be back on Capitol Hill today testifying about the economy before the Senate Banking Committee. Now, Powell telling a House panel yesterday inflation is still running too high and there's still a long way to go to get back to the Fed's target of 2%. Now, the Fed held off on raising interest rates last week after hiking them 10 straight times. But Powell says 2 more hikes are still ahead. Microsoft will try again to make the case for its nearly $70 billion takeover of video game maker Activision Blizzard. The company heads to court in San Francisco today for 5 days of hearings and a legal showdown with the Federal Trade Commission, which has sued to block the deal on antitrust grounds. Both Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella and Activision CEO Bobby Kotick are expected to testify. If the judge declines to issue an injunction, Microsoft could close the deal next month. A majority of Americans say they're uncomfortable with the level of emergency savings they have set aside. That's according to a new survey from Bankrate. Now, when asked what would make them feel better, nearly 9 in 10 people say they would need enough money to cover at least 3 months of expenses. Fewer than half say they have that much, while more than 20% have no emergency savings at all. Among working Americans, more than half add to their rainy day funds at least once a month, guys. And most experts actually recommend 6 months worth of an emergency fund. So,
all right. Good advice, Savannah. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You got it.
A new approval by the USDA is revolutionizing how and where we get our meat.
Yeah, yesterday, regulators gave the green light for the sale of chicken made from animal cells. This is the first time companies have been approved to sell lab-grown meat to restaurants and eventually to supermarkets. Paul Shapiro is CEO of the Better Meat Company and author of Clean Meat, How Growing Meat Without Animals Will Revolutionize Dinner and the World. He joins us now to talk more about what this means for the meat industry. This is a huge development, Paul. Thanks so much for joining us. First of all, give us, without getting too deep into the science, sort of the basic explanation of how this cultivated meat is produced.
Good morning, Joe and Valerie. And yes, it is a historic moment as we get ready to try to divorce the meat experience from animal slaughter, because we are witnessing a revolution today in how we are going to produce meat in the future. And the approval by the U.S. government yesterday to start allowing the sale of actual chicken meat. This is not an alternative or a substitute to chicken, but actual chicken meat grown without animals is a very important marker on that step. So Joe and Valerie, imagine taking a tiny sesame seed sized biopsy from a chicken. And in there are millions of little cells, and you can grow those cells in a cultivator. And from that cultivator, grow actual chicken with a dramatically smaller footprint on the planet. Less land, less water, no antibiotics, many fewer greenhouse gas emissions, and more. And of course, without having to harm the chicken. And you can do this not just with chicken, but with cows and pigs and, frankly, any animal you want, really. And so this is the type of future that we can have a meat industry that doesn't involve so much environmental degradation, so many climate changing emissions, so much animal welfare concern, and more.
Paul, you just covered so many of the benefits in all of this, but what are the challenges and the costs associated with making meat in this way?
Valerie, there definitely are challenges to scale up. So this is no longer science fiction. It is science fact. I have eaten this kind of cultivated meat many, many times. And what you're seeing on the screen right now is a good reminder of why we need to do this. Because when you see thousands of animals crammed inside of these factory farms where they can barely move an inch their entire lives, it's clear that we need to do better. We need to do better. And so, Valerie, to answer your question directly, there are a number of challenges to scaling up. So rather than producing in small-scale cultivators, we need industrial-size cultivators in the same way that the meat industry has industrial-scale facilities today. But rather than trying to jam living, feeling individual beings into those industrial factory farms, we can simply grow the cells in a far more efficient, far more humane, and far more environmental manner. So no, you're not going to see cultivated meat on big box grocery store and fast food menus anytime soon. But you will start seeing it on menus from famed chefs like Jose Andres and other Dominique Crenn, because companies like Good Meat and Upside Foods are going to be putting that on those menus. So just in the same way that smartphones at first were the realm of only the very elite, so to speak, eventually, within years, you see that coming down to the place where now we all have them in our pockets. And that's what's likely to happen here too, that the price is going to come down as this industry begins to scale up now that it has government approval.
Yeah, so Paul, help us better understand, you spelled it out there, how this timeline is going to work. How many years could it be before we see this in grocery stores? What might it look like on the store shelf in its initial stages?
The government has already indicated what it wants to label this type of meat. Now, again, it's not alternative meat. It's not substitutes for meat. It is real, actual animal meat, simply grown without slaughtering animals. And the term that they want to use is called cell-cultivated meat. So instead of meat grown from slaughter, it's meat grown from cells. And this meat is safe to consume. It's better for the planet. It's obviously better for animals. And so to answer your question, Joe, I don't think that you're going to see this on big box grocery store shelves for several years. It's going to take time in order to scale these processes up. But we will start see it coming into the market. And just in the same way that, for example, we didn't go from print film to digital film in a matter of only a year or two. It took time, but eventually nearly all film became digital. That's what we're going to see in this particular circumstance as well, because it is just so much better. In the same way that we no longer have to whip horses in order to get around, and instead we use bikes or cars, people are going to say, hey, why should we torment and slaughter animals when it's horrible for the environment and bad for us too, when we could do this in a much cleaner, safer, more humane way?
All right, Paul Shapiro, thanks so much for joining us this morning to break it down. We appreciate it.
Joe, Valerie, thank you.
It is a perfect sight on a summer evening, the glimmering light of fireflies.
But there's a warning that the insects, also known as lightning bugs, are under threat in parts of the country. For more on this, we are joined by Dr. Avalon Owens. She is a research fellow at the Roland Institute at Harvard. Good morning, Dr. Owens.
Good morning.
So first, help us understand what fireflies actually are. We're talking about several species of insects here. And why is there a worry about their numbers dwindling?
Yes, so fireflies are a kind of beetle, and a lot of people think they're just one thing, but in fact, they're a very diverse group. So we have 167 species in the U.S. That can be found all across the U.S., especially east of the Rocky Mountains. And there are a lot of concerns that we don't really understand what's happening, but many people remember seeing fireflies as children and don't really tend to see them as much today. And when we go out and look at sites that have records of fireflies from the past, we often don't see the same kind of numbers or the same species that we did before.
So what could be causing this decline in firefly populations?
Fireflies are very particular, so they have certain habitat requirements. They really like marshy, sort of wet areas, clean water, and natural darkness. And so a lot of sort of human activity can be very detrimental. If a firefly lived next to a stream and there's no stream anymore, that firefly isn't going to be able to survive. And similarly, light pollution is a pretty big problem for fireflies. These days, lighting technology is super cheap, and we tend to put lights everywhere at night. But the fireflies have their own lights that they use to communicate with each other. And if our lights outshine theirs, they don't really have a way of finding mates, reproducing, and making more fireflies for the next generation.
Dr. Owens, what methods are scientists using to investigate and record this decline? And how can those of us that do have fireflies living near us do our part to look after them?
Yeah, so we actually really need help from people in the community because there's just sort of too much work for us to do. Fireflies, luckily enough, are pretty easy to see when they're there. And so there's this program run through the Xerces Society for Invertebrate Conservation called the Firefly Atlas, asking people, especially in certain parts of the U.S. that are a little bit more under threat, asking people to go out and look for particular species and record sightings. And they have a bunch of trainings that you can do to learn a little bit more about how to identify the fireflies that you have in your backyard or in your park nearby, how to count them and how to submit that information.
Dr. Avalon Owens, thank you for shining a light on this issue for us.
Of course. Thank you.
Welcome back. A battle of the billionaires could be underway. Tech giants Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk have appeared to agree to fight each other in a cage match. Of course, it all happened on Twitter. Musk posted that he was up for a cage fight with the Meta boss, and Zuckerberg replied, "Send me location." Musk then suggested the Vegas Octagon. That's a fenced-in area that hosts many high-profile UFC fights. So how might this play out? Well, Zuckerberg has medals for jiu-jitsu tournaments and is trained in mixed martial arts, while Musk admitted to never working out besides, quote, picking up my kids and throwing them in the air. I really don't want to see that, do you?
No, but my money is on Zuckerberg.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like he's the sure bet there.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.